Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Look, today we're tackling a challenge that is deeply, deeply frustrating, yet incredibly common. We're talking about regaining functional use of your arm and hand after a brain or spinal cord injury. If you're tuning in, chances are you or someone you love is fighting what feels like a total uphill battle, right? You're putting in the sweat, you're hunting for the perfect exercises, but the progress, well, it just isn't what you hoped it'd be. So today we're going to dig into the source material to uncover the counterintuitive truth about hand recovery. We are literally going to rethink the entire approach to rehab, and I am so excited to guide you through this.
Let's start by getting real about everyday goals. Because when we talk about getting back a functional hand, this is exactly what we mean. We're not just talking about some clinical measurement of grip strength in a doctor's office. No, we're talking about your independence. It's the ability to wrestle open a stubborn tube of toothpaste first thing in the morning. It's the fine dexterity to button up your favorite shirt, lace up your sneakers, or, simply put on your own deodorant. These are vital, deeply personal, everyday tasks. And it's completely natural and honestly, totally understandable that you want this specific functionality back more than absolutely anything else.
But this brings us to a pretty harsh reality and a massive question you might be asking. Why on earth are your hand exercises failing? I mean, it is just human nature to think, hey, if I want to fix my hand, I should focus all my energy and physical therapy purely on moving my hand, right? You get hyper-focused on those fine motor skills, and you endlessly search for specific hand and wrist exercises. But what if I told you that hyper-focusing solely on the hand is exactly the thing that might be holding you back?
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand why zeroing in on the hand doesn't quite work, we have to look at the actual biological reality of how the arm heals. After damage to the brain areas controlling your arm, your recovery generally follows a really specific sequence. It's a concept known as proximal to distal recovery. Basically, your body heals from the center outward. So step 1, that's the shoulder. Step 2 is the elbow. And only then, way out at step 3, do we finally reach the wrist and the hand. If you try to jump straight to step 3 without building that rock-solid foundation of steps 1 and 2, you're literally fighting against your body's own natural biological process.
But wait, it's not just about the order of healing. We need to introduce the hidden villain of our story here. Based on the data, a staggering 90% of survivors face something called spasticity. That leaves only 10% without it. Now, spasticity is involuntary muscle contraction. This means that without you consciously trying to do it at all, your muscles are firing, which forces your wrist to flex upward and your hand to clench tightly into a fist. It is a massive roadblock. It's constantly interfering with those normal stages of motor recovery we were just talking about.
And here's where it gets incredibly frustrating. You might be sitting there thinking, okay, fine, I'll just force my hand open while I move my arm. But spasticity absolutely does not play by those rules. In most cases, whenever you try to actively move your arm, or honestly move almost any part of your body, those involuntary hand contractions actually get stronger. So even if you do manage to force your hand open just enough to grip an object, the very act of trying to move your arm to use that object causes your hand to clench even tighter. It makes it nearly impossible to let go.
Section 1. How muscles fire and wire.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that we need to transition away from just the physical mechanics of bones and joints and look at the actual neurology of the problem. Enter neuroplasticity. This is the biological mechanism that entirely dictates your recovering. Neuroplasticity is the brain's mind-blowing ability to rewire itself and form brand new neural connections after an injury. But here's the catch. It does this based on repetitive actions. The brain pays close attention to what your body does over and over again, and it builds pathways to make those specific actions easier. This means neuroplasticity can either be your absolute greatest ally in healing or a massive hindrance. It depends entirely on the signals you are sending it.
I really want to slow down for a second here because this is the absolute most critical concept to grasp today. Muscles that fire together, wire together. Think of your nervous system kind of like a complex electrical circuit. If you have spasticity, and every single time you try to move your shoulder, your hand involuntarily clenching, well, those shoulder muscles and those hand clenching muscles are firing at the exact same time. And because they're firing together, your brain is actively wiring them together. The more often this happens, the stronger that broken neurological circuit becomes. By constantly trying to force movement without addressing that involuntary clenching, you are accidentally training your brain to make the spasticity a permanent feature of your arm movement. We definitely don't want that.
So how on earth do we break that circuit? Well, this brilliantly illustrates our solution. Enter our hero, the rigid splint. Just look at the difference here. Without a splint, those muscles fire incorrectly, wiring that broken circuit tighter and tighter, and eventually causing the muscles to physically shorten. But with a splint, you introduce a physical barrier,
A rigid splint physically discourages those hand muscles from firing and clenching while you're busy working on moving your shoulder and elbow. It interrupts the bad wiring process. It essentially tells the brain, no, we are absolutely not connecting the shoulder movement to a clenched fist.
But listen, not all splints are created equal. If you're going to protect those neurological circuits, you need to check a few specific boxes. First, it needs a snug fit that keeps your fingers down flat. They definitely shouldn't be curling up underneath. Second, it's got to be lightweight, because if it's too heavy, you literally won't be able to lift your arm to work your shoulder. Third, it must be rigid. If the splint bends when your hand tries to clench, those muscles are still firing and wiring together. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, the thumb must be abducted. That means it's pointed out to the side, not tucked underneath the palm. Keeping the thumb out to the side is the magic key to keeping the entire hand relaxed and breaking that spasticity pattern.
Now, if you're watching this and thinking, I don't have a rigid custom splint, don't panic. There is a really fantastic alternative, the Short Air Splint. This is an inflatable sleeve that goes right over the hand and wrist. It's brilliant because it is entirely customizable. You can put your hand in, blow it up just a little bit, use that air pressure to gently flatten your hand out, and then blow it up a bit more. You just go back and forth until the hand is fully supported and unable to curl up inside. It provides that essential, lightweight protection to keep the hand open, discouraging those muscles from firing and wiring incorrectly while you focus on your proximal recovery.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, the crucial point is this. Even if you were the rare exception and you somehow managed to get perfect fine motor hand movement back while completely ignoring the natural steps of recovery, what good is your hand if you don't have the shoulder movement to actually reach an object? Think about it. What good is it if you can perfectly grip the deodorant, but you can't lift your arm to apply it? True independence requires building a foundation. You've got to start with the shoulder, manage the spasticity with a proper splint to protect your neurological wiring, and work your way outward. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this changes how you view your recovery journey. Keep putting in the work, but make sure you are wiring the right circuits.